Oh my goodness. Have you watched Baby Reindeer? Well, right off the bat, I'm just going to give you a spoiler alert because I will be discussing the series. I'm going to try and not go into too much detail, but if you are planning on still watching it, it's probably a good idea to go and do that first before watching this video. Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Crime Rush and I'm Inga, and today we will be discussing something a little bit different. A Netflix series that has taken the world by storm, including myself. And let me just say, this series was so not what I was expecting. Okay, it really surprised me, and I have to say I thought it was really good, but I didn't expect a lot of what happened in it. Okay, but now there is a massive real life drama unfolding around this series, and we will of course cover that today as well. Now, just a quick warning, if you are sensitive to crime stories or content like that, make sure to take care of your mental health first and rather switch this off and return at a better time. But as for the rest of you, let's get into this. Baby Reindeer, or should I say Baby Reindeer, I can't do that Scottish accent, but I thought I'd give it a try. Well, Baby Reindeer is a Netflix series, and according to Netflix and the creator of the series, it is a true story. Not based on a true story, a true story. And the interesting thing about this series is that the person that all of this happened to in the series is actually the guy who created the series, and he plays himself in Baby Reindeer. His name is Richard Gadd, but in the series his name is Donald, but they mostly call him Donnie. Now, in a nutshell, the story is about a man named Donnie who works as a bartender but is also a struggling comedian. And he happens to meet a woman at the bar where he is working. Now, the first red flag for me probably would have been when she said that she was a lawyer and she knew all of these well-known people, but she couldn't afford to buy a cup of tea or anything at the bar. So trying to be nice, Donnie offers to give her a cup of tea on the house. I mean, he's trying to be nice. He feels sorry for her and he offers her a drink on the house. She accepts, and soon after this, she becomes incredibly obsessed with Donnie. I mean, the things this woman goes on to do is just absurd. It's next level, okay? She starts to stalk him in the craziest of ways. At one point, she even starts harassing his parents. Now, I need you to listen to these numbers. She sent him 41,000 emails, 350 voicemails, 744 tweets, 48 Facebook messages, and 106 letters. Now, that is just wild. Who has the time to communicate like that? It would drive me nuts. But honestly, it's the scariest thing ever. Imagine receiving over 40,000 emails. That is crazy. But then there's one part of the story which really surprised me. I think it's episode number 4, where it just takes this really dark turn. Okay, and Donnie, as I said, he's a struggling comedian and he's really struggling to make it big. This is his ultimate goal, it's his dream, but he's not having any luck with it. So he eventually meets a guy called Darian, and Darian is sort of a success in the television industry or something like that. And he starts to build Donnie's self-confidence, and he sort of helps him with shows, and then eventually he offers to write a script with Donnie. And obviously this is so exciting for Donnie. He was a fan of some of the work this guy had done, and he really felt like things were going better since he met this guy and this guy took him under his wing. So Donnie starts to spend a lot of time with this Darian, and they start taking a lot of illegal substances together and start tripping out together. But then strange things start happening. Sometimes Donnie would pass out, and then he would wake up, let's just say, in compromising positions with Darian. In the series, it really starts to escalate when Donnie actually starts getting sick from some of the substances, and this Darian comes up behind him and starts rubbing his back, and then actually proceeds to SA him. I'm not going to say how, but Donnie then asks him to stop, and he does. He stops. But sadly, desperate for fame and just attention, I guess, Donnie keeps going back to Darian's house, and Darian is his abuser, so he keeps returning to him, and things just get progressively worse and worse and worse. But then eventually there is the scene in episode 4, I think it is, where Darian fully SAs Donnie, if you know what I mean. And this is extremely disturbing to watch, and I found it extremely upsetting. But this is a story of his life, so I felt compelled to watch it. And from this point on, Donnie sort of starts to realize that he needs to get away from this Darian guy, thank goodness. And he does so, but then he sort of goes on this downward spiral. He's completely traumatized. He's unsure of himself. He starts self-loathing, and he starts to doubt his sexual preference. And at this point, he starts to sort of sleep around. He sleeps around with men and with women just to try and figure himself out because he's extremely confused. And that's when he goes onto a dating site, and that's where he meets a trans person and starts to date her. In the story, she's named Terry. And Donnie really struggles in this relationship because he can't open up after what happened to him, and he sort of just messes the whole situation up. But it is just before he starts dating this person that he meets Martha. And I think this is why they tell it, because they want you to understand where he was at mentally at the point where he meets Martha. He was a broken person. And when she gave him this attention, it was disturbing to him, but it was almost satisfying because he craved attention. But it was just the wrong attention, if you know what I mean. The role of Martha is played by an actress called Jessica Gunning. And let me just say, she played this role perfectly. She was amazing. But as I said, Martha becomes obsessed with Donnie and she starts to stalk him. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about what happens in the series in case you still want to watch it and you haven't watched it. But the thing that really fascinated me, and obviously the rest of the world, was that this was a true story. And then the internet sleuths went and found the real Martha. And they found her pretty quickly. And the real Martha's name is Fiona Harvey. Now, Fiona Harvey is denying a lot of what happens in the series. In fact, Piers Morgan interviewed her, and she claims that Richard Gadd, the person who's telling the story of his life in Baby Reindeer, is, I quote, psychotic. She is calling Baby Reindeer a work of fiction. And she is threatening to sue Netflix and Richard Gadd. She is saying that Richard Gadd took some events that happened between them, he dramatized them, and he might think that they happened, but according to her, they never did. Now, I watched this interview of hers with Piers Morgan very closely. In fact, I watched it a few times. And it's because I found her to be incredibly hard to believe. Firstly, every chance she gets, she insults Richard. And it's not in a normal type of way, I would say. It's almost comes from a place of bitterness, or that's at least what it looks like to me. Secondly, a lot of the times when she answers no, she nods yes. I know a lot of criminal psychologists look at this. When criminals deny something, they say no, but they nod yes. And that was very telling for me in this interview. Also, watching her mannerisms, her replies, her reactions to some questions, I couldn't help but speculate that this woman really probably has a personality disorder. Now, I'm not a psychologist, but I'm just saying, if I had to guess, that would be my best guess. Some of her answers were extremely contradicting to statements she had made earlier in the interview. And through the questioning, Piers actually uncovers that a lot of what is said in Baby Reindeer actually happened in real life. For example, the Baby Reindeer thing. I mean, she said she had a sort of toy when she was younger, and that's why she called him Baby Reindeer. And also that there's a comment that's made in the series of hanging meat curtains or something like that. And everything that he mentions that happens to be true, and she actually admits to, she just plays it off as harmless jokes that he took too far. And then, of course, there's the fact that Richard Gadd wasn't the first person that claimed to be stalked by Fiona Harvey. There was a woman from her past that claimed the same thing. And another interesting thing that has surfaced now after the interview with Piers is that she is apparently saying that she wants £1 million for this interview that she gave to Piers Morgan. And I just found that to be extremely telling. And through the interview, she says all that she wants is to live in peace and to be left alone. Well, don't you think it's a bad idea then to appear on Piers Morgan's YouTube channel? I mean, that would have the opposite effect, wouldn't it? He's extremely famous. Millions of people would be watching this interview. I think your best option, if that is really what you wanted, was to be left alone and not to have the attention on you, was to stay quiet and to let this blow over. But now I want to go back to Richard Gadd, and I have to say that he had full control when writing the story, when writing Baby Reindeer. I mean, it is the story of his life. And taking that into consideration, and after watching the show, I have to say, the way he portrayed himself wasn't exactly in the best light. You know, he didn't portray himself as like the most stable person on this earth. It also wasn't your typical stalker victim scenario. He was very real about it. I found it to be extremely authentic, and the honesty in it is it's captivating. He's very real about the mistakes he makes with his stalker and sort of this codependent relationship he forms with her. I mean, he by no means presents himself as a person who has it all together or as this typical victim, as I said, you know. And at one point in the series, he actually shows that he's intrigued by her, and he actually follows her home and spies on her, and she catches him doing this. And Piers Morgan actually asks her about this part in the series, Fiona Harvey, and she denies that he ever came to her place and spied on her and that she caught him.
Is it true that you caught Richard Gadd looking through your window after he followed you home one day?
False.
You never saw him at your house?
I didn't see him at my house. I think it would be impossible to look through a window.
Did anyone else ever see him there?
No.
So as far as you were concerned, he never turned up at your place?
Correct.
But the Netflix show has him doing that?
Yes, I believe so. I've been told that.
But that categorically didn't happen?
That categorically didn't happen.
And this was probably the only part that sort of in my eyes gave her a little bit of credibility, because I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to sort of turn the tables on him if she really wanted to, because she could have said, oh, he was the one that came to my house, I never did it. But she didn't. She denied it. So that's maybe the one part that I believed her. But we have to take everything into consideration. And I think a big thing for me is the fact that she has a history of stalking another person, not just him. He's not the only person who has complained about this. And Piers, when he asks her about this, her answers really aren't satisfactory to me.
She then said that following you leaving, obviously very quickly, that you then harassed her. You were then known as Fiona Muir, obviously, as you said, Muir-Harvey. Mrs. Ray said she was so frightened she issued workers at her firm with personal alarms. You were then served an interim interdict to stop you from contacting the lawyer or her politician husband. Daily Record reported that.
She messed up, I know, and I've still to speak to David about that, the author of that Daily Record article. She didn't. She messed up because I went into the Court of Session, the High Court in Edinburgh, to get countrywide interdicts, an interdict and an injunction in Scotland and England, because I was going to move to London anyway. She mucked up.
Sorry, you went into court to get them yourself?
Yes, but there was
who?
no need, against Laura Walker and Jimmy Ray.
But she said one was served on you.
Yeah, that's nonsense.
An interim
we have checked this out.
And again, there would be a public record of
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. And
You're saying that it was never served?
What we think, she served the initial documents, and then
she did?
No. She served the initial documents, and then there was no hearing. It wasn't minuted for a hearing. I said I would defend, but she mucked that up too. She didn't fill up a second initial document. She then didn't minute for decree in absence, so there is no interim interdict in Scotland.
Why would two people who have no contact with each other at all, Laura Ray and Richard Gadd, why would they both portray you as a very unpleasant harasser?
I don't know why Richard Gadd has, but Laura Walker, it was certainly because I was going for parliamentary selection.
You get my point, two different people.
Yeah, but Richard Gadd has Googled that. Richard Gadd has used that as
well, that's in the drama.
Show.
Is when they find out that you had previously harassed this family.
I haven't harassed that family.
And in fact, there are a few parts of this interview where she actually says she likes to keep people on different phones and she has 6 different email addresses. I mean, I honestly don't think that's normal. I don't know about you, but 6 different email addresses, that to me is not normal. Let me know what you think. But Richard Gadd and Netflix claim that they took many precautions to protect the identity of the people they were portraying in Baby Reindeer. But many are wondering how true is the statement, because the internet sleuths literally found Fiona Harvey, aka Martha, almost instantly. So either the statement is not true, or they didn't do a good job of protecting the people's identities. In fact, a lot of people in the movie industry have been harassed, threatened, and falsely accused of being Darian, who plays Donnie's abuser in Baby Reindeer. So Baby Reindeer has caused a lot of drama. Fiona Harvey has also been harassed and threatened, and this is why she wants to sue Richard and Netflix. But I have to wonder, Netflix is an incredibly successful platform. Do they not do fact-checking before they release something as a true story? I mean, they had to have done this, right? Let me know what your opinions are on that. Could they have maybe not done this? I can't think that a company so successful would create a story and so blatantly claim that it's true and then not do any fact-checking around it. One would at least expect they saw the emails, they saw the messages and all the Facebook messages and all of that. But here's my opinion, for what it's worth. I believe there's truth on both sides of the story. Do I believe what Fiona Harvey says? Not really. In fact, I'm inclined to believe more of what Richard Gadd has to say about it. But I do think that he embellished some of it and maybe dramatized a lot of it. And that would have been absolutely fine, because this happens in the movie industry all the time. It happens in series all the time. But then he should have said, based on a true story. I think it would have saved him a lot of drama, and he definitely would not have been sitting in this position that he is in right now. But we'll see how this all unfolds, and I've just got a feeling there's a lot more to come, and I will obviously keep an eye on it and cover it as we go. But I'm dying to know your opinion. What did you think about the series? Did you enjoy it? Did you find it too dark? Did you find it too upsetting? I know I've read comments where people said it was just too upsetting for them to watch, and I really do get that, but I just felt compelled to watch it because I wanted to see what he went through. And I don't know, I felt it was extremely gripping. But let me know what your opinion on the series was. And also, what is your opinion on this whole thing? Do you believe Fiona? Do you believe Richard? What do you think is the truth behind all of this? I look forward to reading your comments about it all. And as always, thank you so much for watching and for sticking it out with me today. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, click that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.